June 10th, 2009. Um, Back in Utah, and as usual, there's tons going on. I was reading a headline, mortgage rates soaring. Longtime viewers, once again, of MOT, you know about that I've made a big deal of interest rates, and a lot of stuff is happening with interest rates. The 30-year bond is at 4.76, lending money to the U.S. government for 30 years, and the 10-year is at 3.94, which is about a double since December. So interest rates doubling on a 10-year bond in 6 months is a big deal. Now, this has international ramifications, and for instance, Russia announced today or yesterday that they are going to lessen their exposure or how much money they lend the U.S. government, and guess where they're going to lend it? They're going to lend it internationally to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and China is also considering doing that with $50 billion. So what you're seeing is a shift from the U.S. government being the trusted place to park money, short and long term, to the International Monetary Fund being a more trusted place. So we're going to continue to watch this transition from national, and it's sad to say, but it's just completely visible, the demise of the United States of America as a powerhouse, and more towards international institutions as they continue to rise in power. So, very interesting on Russia and China wanting to get out of U.S. Long-term debt instruments and into IMF instruments. Now, the whole thing which started a long time ago, so you can't blame Democrats over Republicans. Everybody in Congress that has voted for these horrendous deficits is to blame. And frankly, those that elected them are also to blame if you need to spread blame. It's not somebody that got a crazy mortgage. That person's not to blame. It's people that are, the United States is bankrupt, and borrowing more money just exacerbates the problem, will make the eventual collapse that much worse, and is completely wrong, unconstitutional, ridiculous, and frankly horrifying. So there was a brief period where you could get mortgages for about 4.5%. Those have already jumped to 5.65%. 30-year mortgages have jumped 100 basis points or 1% just in the last few weeks. So I think we've seen the low in U.S. Interest rates at 4.5% on 30-year mortgage for the rest of U.S. history. They're going to keep marching up. I know people, they can't get their hands, they can't understand, and there's nothing to compare this with. These massive deficits, the biggest in world history. So long-term interest rates will continue to go up. Unfortunately, there's inflation in some areas, other areas there's deflation. The economy is being artificially propped up with trillions of dollars. So, I mentioned the DVD. I also mentioned that one video has about 170,000 hits, that all paper currencies eventually become worthless, and the dollar is no exception. What will happen, and here's the future, which comes from studying the past, a lot of study, is that as the dollar goes downhill and the U.S. economy goes downhill, there'll be this integration, and of course most of you know this, into international institutions, obviously a one world currency, and that's when the U.S. dollar will be worthless. So this hyperinflation won't be like a 5, 10, 15-year thing. It's not going to be exactly like Argentina or exactly like the Weimar Republic or whatever. The United States and Americans will be subsumed into a one world currency, which is obviously, you see the trial balloons being floated, and that's coming. But the massive move into interest rates is underway, obviously underway. 30-year fixed rate mortgages, 5.65%, and the bonds, the 10-year and 30-year, just going. So obviously it's very serious because we're a debt-based society, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and I'll comment more on that later. So had to say this on interest rates. Oil back over 70. What's going to drive the price of oil? I think it's the drums of war. And once we fully enter World War III, then of course oil will go back over 100, 115 US dollars, and we'll even see $200 oil, I think, within 2 years. Okay, that's it for now. Ciao.